What's up, guys? I'm Jack, and this is Daisy. Say hi. And welcome to another video. So, after losing horribly in my Stormvale Castle only Nuzlocke run, I decided to do something a bit easier and a bit more fun, and something that's also not a Nuzlocke. And one of my lovely viewers commented in the comments that I should do a Black Knife run. And I thought that was a great idea. So here we are, Black Knife Assassin. We're getting our Black Knife right now. So what are the rules of this run? I'll put them up on screen. There's a bunch of extra rules to make this more difficult, but the main thing is I can only use the Black Knife and the Black Knife Assassin armor. So without further ado, let's get started with the challenge. So this one is going to be in Shadow of the Erdtree, but before we head to the Shadow Realm, I of course have to make my character look pretty edgy, and I give her a pretty cool name. I name her Knife with like an N and a Y. So that's pretty funny. Cool. With that taken care of, we can head on over to the Shadow Realm. And as is customary, the first thing that we have to do once we get here is, of course, die. Yeah, that didn't take long. Well, we're gonna go ahead and collect a bunch of Scadu Tree fragments scattered around this place. Not all of them, but some of them. Enough so that the bosses will be feasible. I feel like at some point I should do a no Scadu Tree fragment run. I don't know how difficult that would be, but I imagine it would be somewhat interesting. Anyway, after collecting a handful of fragments, we talked to Ansbach over here, and for once we're gonna do his questline. After talking to Ansbach, we can head right into Bellarat Tower Settlement, and we can just sprint right through here, no problems, make it to the boss, and let's see if we can get this first try. So the cool thing about the Black Knife is that its Ash of War Blade of Death has the Destined Death effect, which is just fantastic. It chunks bosses for a pretty substantial amount of health on the first shot. After that, the Destined Death effect from the Ash of War will still do a percentage damage over time, but the main draw for me at least is that initial chunk of damage that takes away their max health. Another great thing about the Ash of War is we just have a ton of hyper armor during it, so basically once we start using it, we're gonna get it off no matter what. We dodge around for a minute, but the Divine Beast Dancing Lion is very quickly eating through all of our healing flasks and our FP flasks. And since I want to get this on my first try, the strat is to run away, and then once we have some good distance from the Divine Beast Dancing Lion, that's when we'll use our Ash of War. We're just going to go ahead and try to conserve as many healing flasks as we possibly can. This fight is taking an extended period of time, because we really don't do that much damage even with our Ash of War. So the Divine Beast Dancing Lion is just cycling through all of its different phases, and again, quickly eating away at all of our healing flasks. In fact, we just ran out of that, and FP flasks. So we have basically one full bar of each to finish off this fight, and the Dancing Lion still has a pretty significant portion of health. But I continue my strategy of just running away and then hitting him with Blades of Death while we are at a safe distance. And it's working pretty well. We just gotta make sure not to take another hit, otherwise we will most likely die. One more Blade of Death takes it down pretty low, but it's not dead yet, so we gotta get one more attack off, which means we gotta be up close. But before I can do that, the Dancing Lion unleashes a flurry of attacks that I have to dodge. And then I try to use the Ash of War, not realizing that I'm completely out of FP. And then it swaps to its lightning phase, and almost destroys me. Thankfully I managed to dodge a few attacks afterwards with basically 1 HP left, run up, slash it, and this fight's over. That was close. Daisy, do not touch my plants again. I swear to God, I will end you. Not really. I love you very much, but please don't touch my plants. I woke up this morning and there's just dirt all over my floor. She just started digging through my plants while I was asleep, I guess. Anyway, I take out the golden hippopotamus next for some extra Scadu tree fragments before heading on into the Shadow Keep to do some quests. Well, first things first, we do run up to the Dark Chamber entrance to grab Mesmer's Site of Grace, but I don't want to fight him quite yet, so we're going to go ahead and talk to Ansbach on the first floor. We give him the secret right scroll that we found somewhere else in the Shadow Keep, and then talk to, I don't know, whatever her name is. Needle Knight Leda, whatever. Leda tells us that she is worried about Hornsent being a traitor, so we go and destroy Hornsent for funsies. And then I talk to her again, and she thinks that Ansbach is a traitor. To be fair, she's completely right. Ansbach is not to be trusted in terms of loving Mikola, but I like him more than I like Leda, so... Sorry, bud. With Leda vanquished for now, Ansbach's questline is basically done. It was a lot quicker than I remember, but that's okay. We're heading up to Ranala next, and of course, as we approach Radahn, I go for a Blade of Death in hopes of lowering her health. She dodges it, but the second one hits. R'Ellana then hits us with a couple of sword attacks, which we can guard counter, and I thought I would get a poise break by now, but we didn't. So, fun fact, I guess knives do a lot less poise damage even if you're guard countering. Just learned that. I mean, it makes sense, but Jesus, this should not be taking this long to get a poise break on frickin' Ranni. And yeah, we're using the deflecting hard tier, of course, that's why we can counter Radagon's attacks so well. But we finally get that poise break on Rykard, taking her down to about half health. And that's when I go for an Ash of War, but that was poor timing because she used her Ash of War to almost destroy us. But we escaped and managed to enter her second base. We approach Ramana hoping to bait out her fire attack, and it worked perfectly. That's when we go for another Ash of War, this time safely getting it off. And by the way, I only do this our names bit when I genuinely mess her name up the first time. Anyway, as we continue this fight, we're going for more guard counters because while they don't do much poise damage, they do a lot of damage. And we have the curved sword talisman equipped, which buffs our guard counter damage regardless, so that's nice. She almost destroys us, but we manage to escape and heal up as she uses her moons. And I really wish that I had gone for a Blade of Death in between her second and third moon, because we probably would have been able to jump up and dodge it, which would have been epic, but I didn't think of it at the time. Anyway, one more shot brings Ranala down, and that allows us to move on to the next boss. Not too bad. The Cerulean Coast is our next destination, and it's not too hard to get to. Just hop down a waterfall, run through a river, and then we're there. And it is so beautiful here. I will say it every single time that we come here. It's just so pretty, man. Daisy, what are you doing? She's just freaking out by the dirt that she made last night. What are you... Hang on, I'm gonna try to record it if she goes back there. I'll show you guys if she does it again. Anyway, we run through the Deep Stone Crypt, die, and then make our way to, what's this guy's name? The Putrescent Knight. So, fun fact about this guy, the term putrescent kind of refers to death. And by that, I mean the putrescent goop that we're walking through and that he shoots out of his body is likely decomposed human. Yeah, the reason I bring this up is because in Elden Ring, holy damage is always good against anything relating to death, and in this case, it is good against the Putrescent Knight. And thankfully, our Blade of Death Ash of War is entirely holy damage. So yeah, it does good damage is what I'm trying to say. So with only 3 shots, we've already taken down half his health, and we still have a bunch of healing, so I think we'll be okay here. Let's make this a quick fight. So another fun thing about this Ash of War is that when you use it, it allows you to dodge attacks that travel over the ground, like that one, which is awesome. I mean, obviously it only works if you time it correctly, but still pretty cool. Anyway, Putrescent Knight down, we're on to the next boss, probably Commander Gaius. if I remember correctly. So we run through the Shadowkeep Church District and unflood the flooded part of it. And then of course we have to carefully get this Scadu tree fragment on the statue here. And for once we actually get it on our first try, so that's awesome. And then we go up the elevator to the loft area, down another elevator, and we're in Scadu view to fight Commander Gaius. So Gaius, as always, first thing he does is he charges right at us. And about halfway through the fight, I died. So first try was a bust, but second try, it went a little bit better. I'm not even gonna lie to you. Like with every boss fight, our goal is to get off an Ash of War to lower his max health, and we do that while taking some damage in the process. After that, we dodge his big combo attack and get a guard counter off, which takes out a decent amount of health. And after that, I use some light attacks, which actually do some pretty decent damage. I should probably try to use those light attacks more often. After barely dodging an attack, I go for another Ash of War, taking him down to about 2/3 health. And since he charged away again, I used another Ash of War, and he's down to about half now. Pretty good. Man, I used to hate this guy so much. Nowadays, he's pretty alright. Unless he does that, where he just blows right through my guard and damages me. It's fine though, he's in his second phase, which is definitely slightly more difficult, but it's also not too bad. I dodge his charge attack and go for an Ash of War, hitting him for some okay damage. After another Ash of War use and a couple light attacks, we managed to get 2 guard counters off in a row, still no poise break, and we take down his health quite significantly, though he almost destroys us. We were literally one shot there. I'm pretty sure if a strong breeze came at us, we would have died, but we managed to escape and heal back up. A flurry of light attacks take Gaius down pretty low, and he is almost within one-shot range of our Ash of War. So we go for it, and we don't get it, but we do get a guard counter and finish the fight. And with Gaius down, we can grab the 5 Scadu tree fragments that lay behind him, which is always nice. Now we're heading down through the Church District underground now to get to the Sunflowers, who beat me on our first attempt. We got pretty far though, we got all the way to the end of the 3rd phase. Yeah, we just got blasted a little bit, but it happens. Second attempt, we run right up, and of course the first thing we gotta do is use our Ash of War to take out that chunk of health. Ha, just kidding, get baited, we actually did a jump attack there. So I learned something pretty annoying during this fight, during the first attempt actually, where if you defeat one of the Sunflowers by getting a riposte on them, like if a riposte is your last attack on a Sunflower, it won't deal any extra damage to the incoming Sunflower. So that's fun, never riposte a Sunflower as the final hit, I guess. The more you know. Anyway, these guys are very much holy damage resistant, so our Ash of War doesn't really do much damage to them, but our regular attacks are pretty okay as long as we can hit their big dumb Sunflower head. And before long, the first one falls. The second one comes in, and one of the most satisfying things to do in this game is to block his charge attacks with the deflecting hard tier. I mean, look at that. It's glorious. The second one does have a lot more health than the first one does, but we can still hit his big dumb Sunflower head for good damage. We dodge around for a bit, narrowly avoiding attacks and trying to get jump attacks off on his head whenever we can. We are running pretty low on health, and we do have another Sunflower to fight, so it's not looking great, but also not terrible. Eventually he goes for a head slam attack, which allows us to do just enough damage to almost defeat him. We just need one more hit and the second phase will be done, sending the 3rd Sunflower our way. So I go for an Ash of War to finish off the second phase. We of course get the riposte on Sunflower number 2 to do some extra damage to Sunflower number 3. Upon his arrival, he of course does his big holy AoE attack, and we manage to get hit by it, of course. We heal back up and hit him in the head with an Ash of War, dealing some pretty decent damage. He goes for some charge attacks, and once again, we can block every single one very satisfyingly, and then charge back at him to deal some more damage. Eventually he goes for another holy explosion, this time we dodge it, and since we're not too far away, we can run right up to him and get off a flurry of light attacks, dealing substantial damage. Once again, he goes for a holy explosion. We dodge 1, 2, and 3. Wow, that was pretty good. And we can hopefully finish off the fight right here. And the defeat of the sunflowers takes us into something very important.
Pizza time.
So we start with the tomatoes, and for these tomatoes, we're going to put them in a pot or pan of water, boiling, and then once they start to crack a bit, that's when we know they're done. So I just went ahead and grabbed 2 forks, and I'm using that to take the skin off of these tomatoes, and we just deskin every tomato and put it on a separate plate. And I used about 10 tomatoes, but once we're done with that, we take the pan, put some olive oil in it, and we put some onions and garlic on the bottom on medium-high heat, just until they get nice and soft. And make sure to cover it, of course. So once they are soft, we go ahead and mix it up a little bit before adding our tomatoes to the pan. I also added some cherry tomatoes that I had, just some extra ones lying around, and put some basil in it, of course. Can't miss out on the fresh basil. So after that, we're just going to mush and mix everything around in there for a little bit until it's nice and homogeneous, and then go ahead and cover it and let it sit on low heat for like 3 hours. And then I'm going to use an immersion blender just to blend everything together. You can use any type of blender, a potato masher, 2 forks, whatever you got, just to make it into one solid sauce. Cover it again and let it sit for another hour or so, then it's probably about ready. Now we got to make some dough. So I pour a full packet of yeast in a bowl along with 3/4 of a cup of water, warm water, and then about a teaspoon of sugar and a teaspoon of salt, and then we just mix everything around. Once it's mixed, we can pour 1 cup of flour in there and again mix everything once more. We add a splash of olive oil to the mixture and then 1 to 1.5 more cups of flour depending on how much you need. I only needed about 1. And then after just a bunch of kneading, the dough is finally ready, so we form it into a ball and then put it in a bowl that we cover with olive oil and then a napkin over the top, letting it sit for about a half hour. After that half hour is over, the ball would have doubled in size roughly, covering the entire part of our bowl now. Look at that thing. And we can now begin to mold it into our pizza shape. And I like to just push out the edges like so, and it works out pretty well. In the meantime, I preheated the oven to 425, and I cut up some cheese, some nice Gouda cheese, to put on the bottom of the crust. And we're gonna pre-bake the crust a little bit. So I put that in the oven for about 10 minutes, the cheese got nice and melty, and the crust started to harden up just a little bit. And with that, we can evenly spread our sauce around the pizza and put some slices of tomato on top of the sauce. Next up, we're just gonna put some chunks of buffalo mozzarella all around this pizza, and yes, it is called buffalo mozzarella because it comes from buffalo milk in Italy. And yes, buffaloes do live in Italy. I know, it's pretty crazy. And then finally, the last ingredient is fresh basil leaves, finishing our trifecta of the Italian flag. So the 3 colors, red, white, and green, are the colors of the Italian flag. And this is a margherita pizza, by the way. After that, we put it in the oven for about 10 to 15 minutes, and I left it in there a little bit long, so it was a bit crunchy, but still hands down the best pizza I've had here in South Carolina. They don't know how to make pizza down here. Can confirm. Anyway, back to the run. And I teleport straight to Mesmer for our next fight. After we enter his arena, we can immediately get hit by his big flame orb attack. Yeah, I don't know, I guess I forgot how to dodge for a second. But we hit him with a Blade of Death to deal some substantial damage and knock out that chunk of his health. So now would be a pretty good time to thank my channel members, Mary, Micah, Beer. I am truly grateful for all of you. It really does mean the world that you're willing to support me. So shout out to you guys for being just the best. Anybody else that wants to become a channel member, you can. It's in the description below. You essentially get early access to videos. You get an emblem next to your name that changes each month. So yeah, that's a thing. And if you want to subscribe, that would also be awesome. That would help me out a bunch. It's free for you, but it genuinely helps me out so much. But you guys just coming to watch the videos genuinely means the world to me. Like, it's so crazy that we have even as many subscribers as we currently have. I didn't think I would make it this far. So, thank you to everybody. You are actually making my dreams come true, so thank you. Anyway, with the sappy stuff out of the way, we can actually fight Mesmer. So we dodge Mesmer's big combo attack and jump in real close to get some light attacks off, dealing a pretty substantial amount of damage, and one more Ash of War use, or basically anything, should get him into the second phase from here. And for the most part, I think his second phase is honestly easier than his first. But we push him into phase 2, and he does his big snake flame orb attack, which we can dodge pretty easily, and jump in him to use an Ash of War, which deals okay damage. We do get hit by his next 2 attacks, but we can heal right back up, and dodge an incoming snake. We hit him with another Blade of Death, taking him down even lower, and we dodge the next 3 snake attacks. And that allows us to restore our health almost to full. Next up, I go for another Ash of War, and that's really what we're doing here. We are all out of healing right now, so it's getting pretty dangerous, but as long as we stay pretty far away from him and go for Ashes of War when we're safe, we should be able to finish this fight relatively safely. We do get hit by another one of his attacks though, and that takes us into one-shot range. Any single one of his attacks will destroy us from here. So we gotta dodge. His next Flame Orb attack is easily dodged, and an Ash of War takes him down pretty low. 3 more from here should do the trick. There's one, and we barely managed to dodge his charge attack. I don't know how he missed there, but I'll take it. From here, we back up even further, hoping to be able to get one more off. I go for an Ash of War, and die. That's rough. The next attempt went about the same. By the end of the fight, I was out of FP and almost out of health, but I was able to take him out after he went for one big snake attack. So, Mesmer down. I'm gonna head through the Dragon's Pit Terminus next and face the Ancient Dragon Man, and after a couple of guard counters, our first encounter with him is done. So the second time, this is actually kind of a funny fight. I don't normally show this fight, but yeah, just go ahead and watch this. So after trading blows with him for about 30 seconds, we did manage to finish him off, eventually fighting another dragon, and then speaking to Bale, where that's not Bale, that is Egon. And then we spoke to Egon, who gave us his finger. So we ascended to the peak of Jagged Mountain, grabbed the Site of Grace, and went inside of the arena. Much like with Mesmer, our first attempt did end in misery and suffering. We unfortunately perished at the hand of Bale. So I guess our second attempt is our best hope. First thing we do is go for a Blade of Death. Takes down a chunk of his health, and then we just go for light attacks on his little feetsies, dealing some decent damage. At least in the first phase of fighting Stumpy here, the best thing to do is stay by his butt or stay by his stump and attack from there. So yeah, we get a bunch of light attacks off there, dodge his incoming fire breath, and we're doing pretty good. This is going a lot better than our first attempt so far. Also, calling Bale Stumpy reminded me of something from high school. So I had a forensic science teacher. She was like in her 30s, great gal. But I ended up breaking my arm like senior year of high school playing rugby, of all things. And after forensic science one day, I was just offering to help clean up from our lab or whatever we were doing. And I tried to pick up a box, and the teacher looks at me and she goes, "I don't need your help, Gimpy." And if you've never heard the term Gimpy before, it just is a way to make fun of somebody who has a limp. But yeah, she obviously wasn't trying to be mean. I thought it was hilarious. The class thought it was hilarious. Just weird, funny memories. Anyway, Bale is about 2/3 dead, and we managed to dodge all of his flame lightning attacks, which looks so sick, by the way. This is such a cool looking boss fight, even if it's not super difficult. And I do want to mention this here. So I don't use summons except for Egon and Alexander because they are my boys and I love them. So Egon is always welcome in the Bale fight. So after dodging and running around for like 2 minutes, I go for another Ash of War, which gets me dead. Attempt number 2 also ends in failure. But attempt 3 is where we finally get that dub. After 2 uses of our Ash of War, Bale is being drained of his life, we are out of healing, literally one shot, and then he dies. 3rd time's the charm, right? On my way down to the Lord of Frenzied Flame, I take out some hippos because they drop Scadu Tree fragments. And then I'm actually going to show this fight. I normally don't, but it was really fun. I played like a Black Knife assassin, and every single time he was vulnerable, I would go up behind him and just do a backstab. It was so funny. Honestly, this is the only way I'm going to beat this fight from now on. Like, this is so entertaining. I love it. I love it. Am I a bad person for bullying this guy like this? Probably. Anyway, before long, we do run through the Abyssal Woods and find ourselves at Midra's Manse, where we can run through the little puzzle inside the manse and get to Midra himself. We find the Monkey Man and very quickly take him out, which leads us to a fight with the Lord of Frenzied Flame, who beats us up. Quite badly, actually, a couple of times. So I mentioned this a bit earlier, and I'll mention it again. The guard counter ability on this knife is, it's good, it does good damage, but the poise damage is not there. With like any other weapon, 2 guard counters against Midra would take him into a poise break, but with this it's like 4 and some light attacks. So that does make this challenge significantly more difficult than most of my other ones. Speaking of which, I am thinking of doing a guard counter only challenge here in the future, which sounds like a lot of fun. That'll probably be in a few weeks, but I am looking forward to that. What weapons would be good for that? Let me know if you guys have any good ideas for weapons for that one. Anyway, Midra goes down to about half health before we finally get a guard break and a riposte, which barely does any damage. And it's weird that it did so little damage because this weapon actually deals more damage on ripostes than most other weapons. It has a 110 critical hit multiplier, rather than just 100. The Misericord has 140, which is the highest in the game, or at least tied for the highest, but this still should be better than normal, theoretically. Anyway, I almost died of madness, but managed to heal up and escape before death. And after escaping and evading the next few attacks, I'm able to get a guard counter off as well as some light attacks, taking Midra down pretty low. An Ash of War takes him down even lower, and into a poise break, which we can't really take advantage of, but we do manage to get a few light attacks off regardless. Hopefully one final guard counter here will finish the fight. Or an Ash of War, that'll work too. Alright, that wasn't too bad, only a few attempts. Next we're gonna fight Metter, who usually gives me a lot of trouble, but before we do that we of course have to do the Fingers questline. So we ring the first bell, and then on the way to the second I grab the Golden Braid, which negates holy damage by the utmost, which is just amazing, and then we ring the second bell, finally taking us to the third bell, which we can then ring, beginning our fight with Metter. We charge through her laser and try to get up real close so that we can get a guard counter or a Blade of Death off. And I do manage to get a heavy attack off before going for that Blade of Death, which really doesn't do much damage at all. This might be more difficult than I thought. So Metter goes for a jump and slam attack, which we very easily dodge. We then can rush up to her while she's using her laser and get some charged heavy attacks off for some decent damage. We then get some distance between her and us, and we go for an Ash of War, which again doesn't deal great damage, but it's something. Hi Daisy. We then try to heal up before getting hit by her laser beam, and then heal up again, and then get hit by her hand, and then finally dodge out of the way of her attacks to use another Ash of War, only to get hit in the process. Over the course of the next 2 minutes, I get a couple of hits off, but I was mostly just dodging attacks, but eventually as she transitioned to her second phase, I was able to get some heavy attacks off. I did take a lot of damage in the process, but we can heal up, bringing our healing flasks down pretty low, unfortunately. While she is summoning some bubbles, I charge up and go for some heavy attacks, getting off some decent damage, and a few more attacks do take her pretty low. So we're almost there. we're out of healing, and, well, we still have some FP left, so our best option might be to try to take her out from a distance. Our Blade of Death takes her down relatively low. We can get another one off before she charges up a big laser beam attack, and it's over. Attempt number 2 goes very much the same, though we did manage to save a healing flask to the end and take her out. So, 2 attempts, that's not too bad. And with Metter defeated, that just leaves 2. Ramana and Radahn. So we run through the ruins of Ra, grabbing any Scadu tree fragments and useful items along the way, and before long we make it to Ramana's arena. I'm pretty confident in this. I think we can get a first try victory, no problem. So let's give it a shot. Okay, so we missed a bunch of attacks, got hit by a bunch of her attacks, but we did eventually get off an Ash of War to take down her max health a little bit. And we do manage to get some heavy attacks off when we get nice and close. Ramana transforms into a giant tire and tries to hit us, but she misses. We get some distance and use our Ash of War for some okay damage. She then charges at us with her big centipede head, but misses her attacks, and tries to whip us with her tail. We dodge and manage to get off some nice heavy attacks, dealing not great damage, but that's okay. We can guard counter this, and that's not a poise break. Damn, I forgot this does no poise damage. So with our lack of poise damage, it doesn't look like we're going to be getting a poise break anytime soon, but we are going to keep trying. So every time we get an opening, I do go for a charged heavy attack. And maybe eventually we will get a single poise break and riposte. Possibly. Oh, right here. Perfect. So we stabbed Ramana in the gut, took her below half health, and thus began her second phase. I spent the next 30 seconds running around the arena dodging her attacks and getting off the occasional light attack and guard counter, and then I got Scarlet Rotted. This isn't good because we are very quickly running out of healing, but we might have just enough to finish this fight. We just gotta end this quickly. Another poise break and riposte takes Ramana really low, quite literally one shot, so we actually managed to finish this fight on our first try. That's pretty good. And lastly, we are left to ascend near a limb, dodging all of these big dumb divine beast warriors, and somehow not dying on our way up, which was pretty crazy because I always died to this guy in particular. But even though he managed to hit us, we managed to escape. I brought Ansbach in for our fight against Lita, and with his help we very quickly dispatched of her, which led us to Radahn. Now, unfortunately, I am not summoning Ansbach into the Radahn fight, as that wouldn't be very fair. But he does give us a nice pep talk before we walk in the arena for our final confrontation, which very quickly ended in our death. Well, first try was a bust. Let's see about second try. As always, I'm going to leave you guys to watching this Radahn fight without my constant chattering. Now, I will give you a couple pieces of information before I go. First thing, thanks for watching. Like, it really, again, I was sappy earlier and I'll get sappy now. It really means the world to me that you guys are even here. The other thing, this fight should be pretty fun. We're going to go for a lot of guard counters here. I know we won't get any ripostes. Oh, we got a riposte. Anyway, go ahead and let me know if you have any ideas for future challenge runs or anything. You know, I will respond to every comment. Or I try to at least. If I miss one, I'm so sorry, but I do respond to like every comment. So, yeah, thanks again. Enjoy the Radahn fight, and I will talk to you guys after this dub. That was a fun way to end things. Well, there's Radahn, and this was a really fun run. I enjoyed playing as a Black Knife Assassin. Great idea. Anyway, I got some fun things coming up in the next couple of weeks. Let me know what you guys thought about this shorter YouTube video, by the way. I tried to keep it under 40 minutes. I just want to see if it does any better in terms of the YouTube algorithm. If it sucks being this short, please let me know and I will make sure to keep them longer. But thanks again for watching, guys. I hope y'all have a good one, and I will catch you next week. Daisy, come here, say bye. Come here. Bye.